Howdy, ladies and gentlemen. How are you this afternoon? So, my name is Andrew Nelson. I am Associate Professor of Film History at Montana State University. Now, the joke I've been making is that the other people who I'm going to introduce need no introduction, but seeing as this is the last Q&A, I thought I would introduce them individually so you can show your appreciation. How about we do that? So, first, please welcome to the stage Mr. Dennis Holmes. Mr. Robert Crawford, Jr. And finally, Mr. Robert Full. So,
look what I got.
So it is the 60th anniversary of Laramie. I think that deserves a round of applause. 60 years. And I was informed today that 60th anniversary will be celebrated this summer in Laramie. Right. So I'm going to start off with a couple of questions, and there's one that I have to ask, given the people who are here. Any television show that's on the air for more than one season is going to undergo some changes. Actors will come and go, the focus may change for a variety of reasons. So Laramie is a show that underwent some pretty significant changes after the first season. And there are a lot of stories out there about why that happened, what it meant, some people who left, some people who came. I feel like this is the moment where we get the true story, is it not? And I think we have the men up here to clear this up once and for all. So why don't we start with that? Right? Tell us the story between season one, some people leaving, some people coming, some people staying.
You know the whole story.
Am I on? Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Well, when you say the whole story, it's his story. I don't know the story. All I know is that, we had a great, I just loved Bobby when we were doing the show. But Bobby was a little older, I think, and you grew up pretty fast on the show.
About 9 months.
Well, he did. And I have no idea why they wanted to go different in the thing, but I thought that, who sent you off to college or someplace, school or whatever.
And I didn't want to be educated. I want to be just like you and Slim.
I know the line. I don't want to be smart. I want to be like Jess. That's a great line. But, so I really can't tell you, what happened to my guy. We've had so many changes. I'll tell you, okay, let's talk about Hoagie Carmichael. Hoagie was in the first season. Hoagie Carmichael lived in Palm Springs, which is about a 2.5 to 3 hour commute to Universal Studios in the Valley. So he would commute. He would come to work every morning, drive up there, and then go back at night. Why I had no idea that he wanted to do that, but he did. But he also lived on the 9th hole of the Thunderbird golf course of Frank Sinatra's golf club. And he loved to play golf. And we would have a 7:30 for 8 in the morning, if you remember. And 7:30 comes, 8 o'clock, Bobby and I are on the set. John, we're ready to go to work. There's no Hoagie. And finally, 8 o'clock, 8:30, they would call down to his home, and the housekeeper had a beautiful home, and when you rang the doorbell, it played Stardust. And the housekeeper would answer and say, where's Mr. Carmichael? And they'd say, oh, he's out on the 9th hole putting. Well, he forgot that he had a call to go to work. And that happened many times, if you remember, so he was gone after a while. But That's as far as we. Go ahead, you tell something.
I just heard a rumor recently, I think it was my sister that told me she once met with John Champion, who is the producer of the show Most of the Way. And he had told her, when she asked him why Bobby left, he says, there was an executive's wife at NBC, or were we at ABC? I think we were NBC, that said that they should change the focus and make it just Slim and Jess and focus on that. They didn't need Hoagie, and maybe because Hoagie wasn't going to be there anyway, they didn't need this kid. What are they going to do without Hoagie, or who they bring in? And I, of course, just got the phone call that nope, you're not continuing, and so my 7-year contract was void. They didn't want to continue, and I don't know if I had 7 or 5 or 2-year contract, but I got one years later, and that's another story. At any rate, the short point is that it was the network that's saying there's going to be this change done, and when the network says that, that's where the money comes from. That's the story. And it was a quick story to the agent saying we're not picking him up, and she calls and they're not picking him up. Okay, good, I get to go back to school is my feeling, because luck just kept coming my way. And I figured if this isn't the one, there's going to be something else. And I never expected to be a professional actor. I was a child actor. I was a teen actor, but I was looking for a real job out of this fantasy world. And I figured that meant I had to get to UCLA, get good grades, and get on with it. I had a great life at school. And so I was oblivious to, oh, should I call Bob? Should I get over there? And should I get after the producer, or get my agent and my dad and my mom, and especially my grandma? I'd like to do that now if I was like, that's how it works. But at any rate, no, it was easy for me to leave. And I didn't look back.
So
I'm sorry,
no, go ahead,
for 1
please.
second. Am I on? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. I didn't think about that because in the second season, wasn't it just Smitty and myself? In the second season?
What stunned me was I thought I did 13 episodes. I didn't remember the scenes, but then IMDb tells me I was in 34 episodes. And then I went out and bought the DVDs, and there's something like 24 episodes on season 1, and I thought we did 36. But then there are 4 or 5 where there must be another 13 episodes that I'm at the beginning or at the end. And whether they snip that into an episode or not beats me. But it seemed to me I worked from like, I've forgotten when that was, in 1960, I think it was. So we started in 59 though, didn't we? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
59, yeah.
I did a live television show, and that led into getting the interview with you and the screen test. And do you recall when
You and I did the screen test together.
And I'm trying to remember when that was. Was that February, March? It was Robert Pylash that had seen it.
I have no idea. But
Yes,
I remember it was
somewhere-
Ray Ranahan that filmed it.
Yes.
Our great cameraman.
And was he a great cameraman? I only found out the last year when I started watching these episodes, and then watching the Western Channel. Ray Ranahan did great movies. If you go to IMDb, they're classics. And he was a cinematographer, I think, in all 4 years.
Well, he was ours, and he invented color television. He was the color consultant on Gone with the Wind. And this is our cameraman. How lucky could we be?
Yes.
Yeah. But anyway, you
So
said
that-
in the
that
second
was-
season,
second season.
it was us, and then all of a sudden, in the third season, they changed the whole format.
Yeah, so we change it and we get rid of the child, and then we decide, well, no, we need we need a child. So that's where you come in. So what were you told coming into the
I
show?
got tired of me and John, and they wanted
Yeah, too much of that masculine
they wanted
camaraderie.
some comic relief.
When I came on the show, they told me that Bobby Crawford had wanted to go back to school. They did not say anything about that just being cut off. They said Bobby Crawford wanted to go back to school, and they didn't explain anything about Hoagie to me, but they said that Bobby had gone, not willingly, but or willingly on purpose, because he wanted to go back to school. So I was fine with that. I probably would have felt pretty bad at the time if I'd have known that they'd have fired somebody else to hire me. I was under contract to 20th Century Fox. Universal bought out my contract from 20th to come over and do Laramie. So I was working at 20th, and then all of a sudden I was doing Laramie. And working at 20th was very different, and you know, individual movies, every movie had a different director, every movie had a different cast, you know, every movie was a different situation. And then all of a sudden Laramie is like family. The crew, I know Robert retired, the crew was so wonderful. Such artists, you know, the great Ray Renahan, the directors that we had were fantastic. And the whole crew, you know, from costumes to props to, like he talks about Richie Brim, Wrangler. You know, they were all the best of the best, and we all went to work every day smiling and laughing and happy to be there. That's all I know. Every day I was happy to show up and hang out with the crew and the cast, for sure.
All right, to add on to that. Okay, so am I on?
So here comes the third season, and we're going to get Dennis Holmes and Spring Byington. I watched Spring Byington when she did silent movies. I mean, this is a fabulous lady, absolutely. And now all of a sudden, Smitty and I hear that we've got Spring Byington. And I said, man, we got to clean the language up. I mean, this is a lady, a woman, and it's going to be tough, you know. And then we've got a young kid that's coming on with it. I had no idea who Dennis was. No. So the first day on the set, they come in, I meet his mother, Janie, who became a dear, dear friend and a lot of fun, and he was a great kid to start with right there. But we meet Spring, and Smitty and I go up to Miss Byington. And Smitty and I said, Miss Byington, I'm Robert Fuller, and John Smith says, I'm John Smith, you know, we're so happy to have you on the show with us. And she says, I want to tell you boys, I've been in the business 60 years, and if you want to swear, you can say every damn word you want. It turned out to be one of the greatest ladies I've ever worked with in my life. And then, of course, it went on great with my pal here.
Hey, I have something to say about Spring Byington, because by the time she started the show, she had done so many major motion pictures. What an incredible career. And she was the professional in the bunch. None of us had been in the industry a tenth as long as she had. And when Robert and John would get a little out of hand, guess who had their thumb on the boys? Let me tell you. She would say, okay, let's straighten up here and get this shot done. And everybody straighten up and get done.
She had a thumb on him.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
So how about, let's say I've heard some rumors about pranks and other shenanigans taking place on the set. Maybe there's no truth to that, but any, yeah, let's clear that up. Surely there wasn't any of that on the set. Pranks, anything of that nature between the three of you?
Oh no, you guys start. I want to hear about the first two.
Do you remember something?
I always had to go to school, so I didn't get to see what's going on. And after school, I had to go home. But these guys had dressing rooms together on the lot, and they didn't go home. And in fact, they kind of celebrated, I was told, day in, day out. And I wasn't old enough to celebrate in that manner, but I did have ambitions. Nevertheless, I couldn't act on that. All I got was the story, and in particular, that stands out are two stories. And the one was, they decided they liked getting together so much, they didn't see why there had to be a wall between them. And so they did a little architectural remodeling with hammers and jacks, and it was not a professional job, but it was done. And I didn't get to see the results, and I don't know if it's cleaned up, and Bob will tell you that. If you have more to add to that story, then I'll go on to another one.
I bet you could. You had to know a bunch. But he is absolutely right. These kids were in school. They were school children. So when they weren't on the set working, they were in a little separate room going to school with great teachers. And I've got to say two things. First of all, I love your mother. You remember that?
Yes.
So great relationship. As far as stage mothers are concerned, I don't know if you've heard the terrible stories about stage mothers. but they can be a wreck. His mom, and I got along so great. These two guys came to work every day. They never missed a line of dialogue. They were perfect. They had fun. The mothers were quiet. I never saw either of your mothers come up during a scene or before a rehearsal and say something. They all sat in the back. And we all had a good time with it. You know, along with something. So I was very fortunate to have these two guys, young, well, you were kids, really, to work with in those days. Smitty and I were lucky because it could have been a different story.
Just to clear up though, so there was or was not some architectural modifications made between the dressing rooms?
You want that story real quick?
Yeah.
Well, I think most of the people have heard it, but I'll tell it very, very fast. All our dressing rooms were on an area called Whiskey Row. And the reason it was called Whiskey Row was because the first dressing room was Ward Bond, the second one was Terry Wilson, the third one was Frank McGrath, who played Wooster, of course, you all know Wooster. Yeah. The next one was John Smith, the next one was mine, and the next one beside that was Lee Marvin. So that's why it was called Whiskey Row. Now, Smitty and I, all of us used to, as we said, we always had a 7:30 parade. Let's be at the studio at 7:30, get into makeup and wardrobe, and be on the set at 8 o'clock, ready to go to work. Well, Smitty and I would arrive at the same time, park our cars right there, go in, and if I didn't remember what scene it was, I'd holler. I'd say, "John, what scene are we shooting today?" And he'd bang on the wall. I said, "Scene 32." You know, and we did this every morning. But as you said, at nights, we used to spend a little time in the dressing rooms after work, and you might have a nip or two, or 10. And one night, we were in John Smith's dressing room, along with Frank McGrath. And the three of us were sitting there, and having a drink, and Frank McGrath says, "What goes on with you guys? All I do is hear you holler at each other in the morning." And we said, "Well, we're not hollering at each other, we're just asking some questions about, what's going on." He said, "Well, you wake me up if I'm in my room, stop that." And he said, "I'll fix that." And he gets up from the couch and makes a run at the wall, and hits the wall and puts a huge hole in it. On my side of the dressing room. Smitty says, "Great idea." Now he's 6'3", 250 pounds. He gets up and goes and he puts a hole this big in the wall. And I'm not doing that. I'm saying these guys are nuts. 20 minutes later, the whole wall between John Smith and myself is down in my dressing room. The whole wall. It's a rubble. It looks like a hand grenade went off in there. And so the party ends and we all go home that night, and the next morning we're on the set, and I open the door and walk in my room, and I gotta step over concrete and stuff like this. Smitty's room is real nice and clean. So now we're on the set, and the assistant director comes up and says, "Lou Wasserman, the president of the studio, wants to see the two of you up in his office." Now you know who Lou Wasserman is, and most of you do too. I mean, this is the mogul of all times in Hollywood, and he owns Universal, and he's our boss. We go up, and the secretary says, "They're waiting for you." And we walk in, and there's Mr. Wasserman and Patrick Kelly, who you know very well, who's the vice president of talent. And Lou Wasserman looks at the two of us. Here's Smitty and I standing there, boots and spurs, cowboy hats, 45s on. And he said, "What happened last night?" John Smith says, "He knocked the wall down." No, I didn't. Finally, Lou says, "Well, don't do it again. Get out of here." And we left, and he said, "Why did you do it?" And I said, "Well, we told him the story." And he said, "Get out." By the time we got back down to our dressing rooms, the set decorator from the studio was there measuring to put a slider between our dressing rooms. So there would be a slider, so if we wanted to talk to each other, we could move the slider. True story.
Well, I don't know if this one's going to get him arrested or not. But it's just rumor as far as I know. But I understand there was another actor in the neighborhood, Tony Curtis, who happened to drive a Rolls Royce. And he would park it, I think, nearby or even maybe in someone's spot that it didn't belong to. And I don't know where his dressing room is, maybe this guy does, but I was told that there was a day when Tony came out and the car wouldn't start. And there was something wrong. And exactly what's wrong, I'm not sure. I rumor on that, but I'll let Bob explain if in fact the blame is at him. That it may have been Smitty after all, or maybe Lee Marvin did it and he got them involved.
He used to be my friend.
You know, that's almost the story. But since you have brought it up, I'm going to tell it very quickly. It's not a, it's a dumb Bob story. It really is. Again, Whiskey Row, Lee Marvin, myself, John Smith, all of us are in my dressing room after work. It's probably 10 o'clock at night. Now, to set this up, you have to understand, I told you about the 5 or 6, 7 dressing rooms in a row for our television actors. Well, right directly across from us, in the street, no further than 20 yards, are 2 major dressing rooms for 2 major stars, Rock Hudson and Tom Curtis. And these are bungalows. I mean, you could live there for a year, right across from us. So I would see Rock, I'd see Tony every day, back and forth, going in. And this particular night, we're all in my room, Ray Marvin, and a whole bunch of us. Ted Bessel from That Girl, do you remember that? So, well, he was doing a show there and he loved Western, so he would like to come into our dressing room. Because every night we went out a little party after work. So Ted's there, and all of a sudden Tony drives up in his Rolls Royce and gets out, and it's a hot summer evening, and he's 20 feet away from me. I said, "Hey, Tony, come on and have a drink with us." And he did some dumb thing like that to me. Turned around and walked into his dressing room, and I thought, "Oh, idiot, what? I think I'll go over there and pee in his gas tank." And Lee Marvin said, "You wouldn't." And I said, "Yeah, I would." And Ted Bessel says, "Can I go with you?" I get up and I walk across the street, and I do in his gas tank, in his Rolls Royce. And while I'm doing it, he comes out of his dressing room. He says, "What's going on?" I said, "Just get your behind back in that room. Don't mess with me." He turns around, he goes back in, and we do what we do. I go back and we finish our party. Gets over about 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. We all go home. Next morning on the set, of course, we're all ready in our boots, Levi's, gun belts, and the assistant director says, "President of the studio wants to see you." Just me this time in his office. Now I'm thinking, I wonder why. So I go to the tower, go up to the 15th floor, or the big office where the room washerman is, and the secretary says, "They're waiting for you." And I thought, what the heck is happening? So I opened the door. Now Patrick Kelly, who he knows very well because he hired you and I, actually, he's vice president in charge of talent of the studio and a good friend by this point. This is probably in the 3rd season. And Patrick is sitting over there, and Mr. Wasserman is behind his desk, and they're both very, very quiet. And I look at Patrick Kelly, and he looks out the window. And we're friends with Patrick Kelly. Lou Wasserman looks at me and says, Did you pee in Tony Curtis's gas tank? And it dawned on me, and I said, "Yes, sir, I did." And I look over at Patrick Kelly, and he looks out the window again. He won't look at me at all. he wants no part of this because we're friends. And Lou Wasserman goes, well, don't ever do it again. Get out of here.
And that was the end of it.
So there again, Tony Curtis ran to the principal and told him that needless to say, I never saw Tony very much.
I have a slightly different story. People a lot of times ask us about pranks on the set because I'm guessing it was fairly common. And I know we did a lot of pranks on the crew also, so those were a little different. But and people ask, well, who did the most pranks, John or Robert? Now, you know, they did have different personalities. John was a little more reserved, and you know, he approached pranks differently than Robert did. So this was a prank on me, and I've told this story once before to a bunch of people, and I've told it to individuals a few times, but a few times here. But
So we better get it on tape, just so we're clear.
we were doing a really serious scene. Jess has left. He's mad. He has left town. Him and John, him and Slim are on the outs, and he's mad, and he's left town. And I'm totally, really upset about this. And Slim's trying to explain to me what's going on. And so it's a scene that takes place in between the barn and the house. And we're outside outside Sherman Ranch. And everybody's standing around watching because this is a big emotional scene. We go through the whole rehearsal. Everything's great. And I don't remember if Robert was standing back there or not, but I think he was. And Slim's explaining to me, you know, that Jess is, you know, left, and he doesn't know whether he's going to be back, and you know, it's total silence. We're actually filming now. Film is running. The camera's running. Everybody knows you don't pull pranks once a camera starts running. That's just not done. Film costs money then. And, yeah, exactly. It's not done on most sets. So, very serious. The whole crew's dead quiet. You can hear a pin drop in the dirt. And Slim's explaining really seriously. We'll look at each other in the eyes, and I look up at him and I say, Slim, do you think it's anything I could have done? And he looks down at me and says, probably. And I froze. I was so shocked. And everybody busts out laughing in the crew, and then I was like, oh my God, it's okay. I was like, yeah, that was Slim. It was a little bit more of a different kind of prank. Probably used to pull.
Well, I'm not sure where to begin here. He's talking about Patrick Kelly, and I knew of Patrick Kelly not really when I got hired. I just did the screen test with Bob and got the job, and then came back for our first day of shooting. And that brings me to Pat Kelly in a roundabout way. The short story on the first day of shooting, I don't know who was here the other day when I told it, but what happened is we repeat the scene where I come in and he is startled and draws on me. I drop the apple pie and bring him, and it splats. And I was rather tickled, I guess pretty nervous that day. But the way it just squashed out struck me as being really funny. And I'm chuckling and not able to continue. It took 13 takes to get that scene. And I was really aghast that I just couldn't control myself. Because I really thought I could. And then I finally got through it and went on, and I think I didn't do more than 2 takes after that ever. But that was stunning to me, because in doing the screen test, what happened was I later found out, and I think it was decades later when we were at a show like this, that Robert was talking about how he said, no, I don't want to be Slim. I didn't get that story, as I recall, when I got on this show. But he had a go-to with Pat Kelly about doing the series he'll tell you about. Well, we left the show in 1960. In 1975, I had got a career going with George Roy Hill making movies. And we had made a couple of successful ones, and George said, we're going to get a contract on the lot here and home, and we need a real pro to come in and join us. And I've asked my friend Patrick Kelly, and he had a long story about his relationship, to tell me who I should go to among the agents about the knowledgeable people. Pat Kelly was running First Artist, which was a company with Paul Newman, Barbara Streisand, and Dustin Hoffman, and Steve McQueen. And they had made Star is Born, and he was making a series of movies, publicly traded company. He's in the thick of it, going to Wall Street and doing all those deals. And so George has lunch at the country club with him, and he says, and here are some of the guys that my agents and lawyers are telling me, and I just don't know which one of these guys, so I trust your judgment. And anyway, do you think there's any chance you'd do the job? Well, I guess Pat Kelly was a very shrewd businessman, because he said yes immediately. And he got out from under that company that was full of stars and daily troubles with Wall Street. We got on our quaint little company with just he and George running the show, and at the peak of George's career, and we went on to do several more movies until 1991 with Pat Kelly in the office every day. Wow. And I always had that icon to turn to, and George did as well, whenever there was trouble.
You may ask some questions.
Why don't we open it up to the crowd? Just something you want to say
Let me
first?
tell you one more.
Yeah, please.
Because you had asked about the pranks on the set. And of course, John and I would never play pranks on Bobby or Dennis because they were young, and that's the last thing we wanted to do. But of course, we did it against each other many, many times. One of the things that I used to do to John was John and I always went to lunch together at a restaurant across the street called the Keys, and we called it our martini lunch. And we'd have 1 or 2 or 10. And we'd come back on the set, and if you're doing a 2-shot with an over-the-shoulder, let's just say it's John Smith on camera, and I am off camera. The shot's on John, the camera's on John, and I'm standing beside the camera, doing offstage dialogue. First scene after lunch, the scene we rehearsed it. Anyway, first scene after lunch, the camera would roll, and John's going to say his dialogue or whatever, and as I'm answering in the scene, I would slowly cross my eyes. And John couldn't handle it. I blew away every time. And he started laughing and say, and we've got these great directors, Les Lander and Joe Kane, who have directed silent movies. And he'd say, Bob is messing me up. And I said, what are you talking about? Come on, John, do it right, the director would say. Second take. Anyways, those are some of the pranks that we used to do. But you go ahead.
Yeah. Well, why don't we open it up to the crowd? Anyone have a question? Oh, wait, we got lots of questions. Let me stand up. No, I can see. The woman in the sunglasses. Woman in the sunglasses. Yeah, who still has her hand up?
Yeah, you.
Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering if you would tell us the story about the Jerry Lee Lewis book in New York. You're getting out of the taxi cab and you're going to go bump.
Jerry Lee Lewis in New York.
Jerry Lewis in New York?
Yeah. Jerry Lee Lewis in New York.
No, it was Jerry Lewis. When I went to jail, you mean?
Fun story.
These guys got more stories than me. All right.
It's on.
I'm doing Jerry Lewis calls me. You know, he did the muscular dystrophy telethons. And this is during Laramie. This is the first year of Laramie. You probably remember this. You were there. And anyway, at that time I was dating a singer named Keely Smith. I don't know if you all remember. And and Keely was in New York appearing someplace, and I flew back to do Jerry's telethon. And when I do those telethons, I was, of course, dressed like this, except total Laramie, gun belt, spurs, the whole thing. We're on the telethon for about, till about, I guess, I don't know, 10 o'clock at night, and the guy that runs the telethon came up to me and said, you know, if you want to take a break, you can take off for a few hours, because it's going to be a 24-hour thing. Come back, and I said, okay. And I took my gun belt off, and in it I have full loads, not real bullets, full load blanks, which is the same thing as the same powder in it if it had a projectile. So I thought, well, I don't want to give this to somebody. It's my gun belt gun. I better just keep it with me. So I'm wearing it. And I get in the cab, and we go and we meet at this restaurant to have dinner. With Keely, her brother, and my buddy Chuck Courtney, and as we get out of the cab and start to go in, there's a couple of not very interesting individuals standing on the street right there, and they started to give us a little dialogue, particularly because I'm dressed as a cowboy right there. So I wasn't ready for that anyway, and I was going to talk to them a little bit, and so was Keely's brother. But the doorman came out and he broke it up. So we went in and we went to see Tony Bennett sing and have dinner. 12 o'clock, we come back out, and those two guys are still there. This time they don't talk, they start coming toward me. Well, I drew my gun and I shot the first guy. Now this was 12 o'clock at night in New York. I shot the first guy at about 4 feet away, and he went to the ground, because a full load 4 feet away, you will feel it. He actually thought he was shot. He went down. Then I shot the other guy, and he turned around and ran, and all of a sudden, all over New York, you could hear boom, 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 echoes at 12 o'clock at night. Well, I didn't think a lot about that. They're gone now. I get ready, and I get the cab. I'm going back to the telephone, and by the time I got to the cab, the cops were there. And I mean, they were there. They grabbed me, threw me up against the wall, and they weren't very nice to me. And unfortunately, I'm Italian, and one of the cops was Italian. I didn't know it at that time. But anyway, I didn't like the way he treated me. He slammed my face up against the wall, and I turned around and I hit him. Now I'm handcuffed and I'm going to jail in New York. I'm being arrested for the Sullivan Act, which I didn't realize you're not allowed to have a firearm in the state of New York. It's a felony. It's a $200,000 fine and 20 years in jail. So anyway, they take me to jail, and they start what is called a round robin. I said to Chuck and everybody, I said, follow me, get a lawyer, get something, you got to get me out of this. You know? And every time they tried to help me, they would take me out a back door, put me in the Mariah, and take me to another cell, and I finally wound up in the Tubes in New York at 4 o'clock in the morning with about 50 drunks and who knows what in one cell, like you couldn't believe. Cowboy boots, hat, spurs, and all these guys looking at me, and I thought, this is it for me. And I mean, these are bad people in this jail. But anyway, the next morning, of course, by the time friends of mine had called NBC and attorneys for me, and then I had to actually appear before the grand jury and tell why. And they only asked me one question: what was the nomenclature of a Colt 45? And I told them that, well, you know, by accident, you know, once you pull a hammer back and touch the trigger, it's going to go off, and they let that go, and then they came out and case dismissed. But there was headlines in New York and headlines in California. Robert Fuller and Star went to jail for, you know, it was unbelievable. It wasn't a lot of fun, believe me. It was scary. And when I got back to California, I thought, wow, I'll probably get fired. because there's applause, you know, you can't do this, you can't do that. John Champion, my producer, comes up and says, "What can you do next year when we open the show?"
I think we sometimes forget how much work actors used to be required to do to promote and publicize the show. Dennis, do you have any stories about having to go out and publicize the show?
I never thought of it as work, and I can't remember specific instances where we were doing. I do remember doing a publicity event with Robert dating because I was a teenager. And though I looked 12 years old, I was 15 years old at the time. And I had a little notoriety because I'd been nominated for an Emmy. And so the teen magazines were featuring me, and John was on a great role as well on The Rifleman. So we were kind of notable. And so this was an opportunity to get a date with a pretty girl. And I knew that Robert knew how to date, and I didn't. And they did a very nice job of getting us a beautiful girl. And then Robert, I think it was his lady, we were picking up at this Beverly Hills mansion, and we were doing photographs of that. And I can't remember the actual magazines. You probably could find it now online somewhere. That shoot with Rob and I, and him consulting me on how to be a gentleman. And then there was a follow-up for some reason, because the loot that I got went immediately into a little motorbike. I was 15. Going on 15 and a half, about to get my driver's license, but I could afford to get a little moped, which did about 20 miles an hour if you're going downhill. But I lived in the hills, and I could go uphill, and I'd tool all around. Anyway, in front of our garage, there's a picture of Robert getting on my little moped, and big Robert on his little moped. It was quite a joke to see. I don't know where that photo is at the moment, but I remember that was the thrill of working on the show and doing a little promotional work and doing it with Robert, because of course I looked up to him on the set. I was awestruck by both of these giant men who were very able. I was always impressed that Robert had been in the military and carried a gun like he knew what to do with it. And I got lucky to get a holster, because I was a gun crazy kid from the beginning. Davy Crockett, and before that we had our little shoot and shell guns and whatnot. But then I got a hold of a real gun, and then they had look-alike pellet guns that you could get and target practice. And I just remember being on the set with Robert and practicing my quick draw and seeing if we could beat each other, if I could get near to beating him on the draw. And I was quick. I'm a pretty good athlete. And so I always felt I could be competitive even at that age, because all you needed to do is draw that gun. And you didn't have to be a big man to do that. Although my ambition, and I did, a lot of pull-ups, thinking about forearms and how they were larger than my thigh. And so yes, it was always inspirational to be on the set, to be about Bob and John.
You were asking a question about what we used to do to publicize the show. Well, both you guys probably know at the same time too. We used to shoot 32 episodes a season. It took us 11 months, and we would get 1 month off. And then the studio would send you on a 5-city tour across the country to go, like, do the Tonight Show in New York, this show in Philadelphia, this show in South Carolina, whatever, which took about at least 2 weeks. So we really only got 2 weeks off on our own. And the first time they did this to me, they were going to send me back to New York. And I always wanted to stay at the Waldorf Astoria. That just seemed like one of the great places in the world. I had never stayed there. So the production manager calls me and says, "Okay, you're leaving. You're going on your 5-day tour. You're going to hit 5 states for 2 days apiece. And the first one in New York, you're going to stay at the Warwick Hotel." And I said, "I'd really like to stay at the Waldorf Astoria." And he said, "Oh, we can't get you in there." I said, "Yeah, we'll try, will you?" So he calls me back and said, "No, they're booked. We can't. It's a lot of money to stay at the Waldorf Astoria." I'm like, "Okay, they've got me in some dumpy hotel out in the boobies." So I said, really? I said, okay. So I hung the phone up and I called the Waldorf Astoria. And I asked for the manager. And I'm getting a very nice man. I said, my name's Robert Fuller. I'm doing a series called Laramie, and I'm going to be back in New York for 2 days. Do you have any rooms available? And he said, yes, we have a very nice suite that, $750 a day. I said, but you do have a room. And he said, absolutely. And I said, I'll be right back to you. And I called the production manager and said, they do have a room. I want it. I stayed in a $750 suite at the Waldorf Astoria for 2 nights.
Dennis, any stories?
Really no promotional stories. If you've ever noticed, there's a lot more pictures of the first 4 cast members than there are of the second 4 cast members. So I don't remember doing as many promotions. A highlight of my promotional career was when they let me be in the Hollywood Christmas Parade.
Tell a Laramie story. About the Laramie, you and Sam.
Yeah. Last year, Samantha and I went on vacation, just driving and camping, and we went to Mount Rushmore and Yellowstone and all that. And we're coming back and we're driving through Laramie. So I like did some stupid stuff, like took my picture outside of the town with the Laramie sign and all that kind of stuff. And as I'm driving through town, I'm talking to my daughter back in Bakersfield, she's living, and she said, Dad, you need to stop at the visitor's center and see if there's a picture of you on the wall. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. There's not a picture of me on the wall in there, and I wouldn't go in and look at it if there was, And she's like, no, really, Dad, you really should check it out. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. So I drive about 1 minute and I see the sign, Visitor Center, parking, right there. And Samantha goes, yeah, you better, right? So I pull in and I walk in. Yeah, there's no picture of me, but there's a beautiful poster of Robert on the wall. So I just to prove to my daughter that I went there, I walk over with my phone and I'm taking a picture of it, And this guy walks up behind me and goes, I know Robert Fuller personally. I said, so do I. He goes, I have his personal phone number. I said, so do I. I said, I'm Dennis Holmes. I was on Laramie with him, and he looks at me and goes, we're looking for you. I'm like, what? What do you mean you're looking for me? And then he took me in his office and he explained to me about the big celebration.
We're all going to be together in Laramie.
Yeah, the 3 of us are going to be together in Laramie for the 60th anniversary.
Time for a couple more questions. All right, this man.
It's from, Robert Crawford. Did you and your brother ever sing? Because I know Johnny sang. Did you ever sing like
Did
your
the
brother
Crawford
did?
brothers ever sing?
Yeah.
On YouTube. Gee, it's nice to have good buddies. And I've forgotten what the other side of that is. And we performed it in San Diego, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. And it didn't become a hit. And I did The Little Old Love Maker Me at 15. I thought it was a great idea. It too didn't become a hit, but it's still out there. And on the other side that seems to be more popular, even today, is Mrs. Smith, Won't You Please Wake Up Joe?
Okay.
Because I have to tell her I'm sorry. I don't forget what it was I did last night. And so John and I did a couple of performances back in '62 or so. John went on to get 4 or 5 songs in the top 10, and has some classics, and has 4 albums out there you can get any day. And then went on to do a big society band orchestra and did all over the country, as well as a lot in Los Angeles. And the recordings that he was very particular and never got albums recorded, but somebody corralled him one time at the Biltmore and recorded the album that he does have published on for commercial sale on Apple and that, and I recommend it because it's wonderful to hear his adult voice. His young voice is just tremendous as well. He just had a natural expression and phrasing that's unique to him. And so my ambition is the home movies. I took of them for about 10 years when I'd be on one of those things. And we don't have great sound, but I know, having seen clips of it, the VHS, the high, got to get it to digital, and there are 4 or 5 songs that you never heard from Johnny that are really terrific.
Okay, yeah, because I know from pictures that you guys are really close and you had songs. I just was curious as to whether or not you did singing like, as much as he did.
And frankly, you can hear it today. We were really fortunate. Australian friends introduced us to Bob Keane. Had no idea who Bob Keane was, but he thought we could sing. He thought I could sing. And I used to sing, but my voice never quite changed. I had a great soprano voice in grammar school and high school, and they'd have people come in there to record me doing that. But then I realized I couldn't really hold, 8 notes, and my voice would break, and I gave up on trying to sing. Johnny was a natural, and Bob Keane was a big band leader. Did Richie Valens, and right on top of Richie Valens came along John, and then he did these series of hit albums. But to get money out of the albums, you had to tour, and John wasn't in a touring mood, wasn't really, and our family just weren't real promoters about get him out there and make that $1 million singing. And then he went right into the Army when he got out of high school.
Oh, wow.
And spent 3 years during Vietnam, and was very fortunate because my mom was a promoter, wrote the Senate and said, you don't want the son of a rifleman dying in Vietnam. And she was right.
Yeah.
and so he worked in films as a script supervisor, as an actor doing training films and flying around in helicopters down in Georgia and around for 2.5 or 3 years. And being in New York was always playing his guitar, and then got in with Vince Giordano, who's a noted big band leader in New York, Society Orchestra. And he has a little card index of about 500 songs that he would pull out and sing the lyrics to. And he has 7 file cabinets, alphabetical, 4 drawers, loaded with charts that he's gotten from big band leaders over the years, because his passion is doing the original charts from the 1920s, the teens, through the 1950s.
The good music.
Yeah. So that's music.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm curious about working with bad guys like Harry Lauder, R.G. Armstrong, Rod Cameron, James Patrick. Can you tell us a little bit about what it's like working with those guys?
So memories of working with some of the notable bad guys on the show.
If I may, please excuse me for this. Most of the people have heard me talk a lot about these things. There's only one chance you're going to get these 2 guys here for a chance. Ask them some questions, please. They've got stuff to talk about. You've heard my stuff. Really, honestly.
Dennis, Robert, do you guys have stories about the bad guys on the show?
Dennis, your turn.
Dennis, notable
You
dads on
have
the
guest
show?
stars on the show,
Yeah, guest stars.
The bad guys on the show were always Bob and John to me. They were the ones always giving me a hard time on the show. No, there is it Ladies' Day?
Yes.
Where I go snooker the bad guy into going and riding the bucking bronco. Yeah, that was very enjoyable, and as with that bad guy, it is amazing. And Robert mentions IMDb and Bobby. If you look at a Laramie cast and you look at the people besides the main characters, they were some of the finest actors in Hollywood for the past 50 years before that. We had some amazing guest stars on the show, and even bit players. Just absolutely amazing actors. And all the bad guys are super guys in person. There's not a bad guy that's not a really friendly guy in person. I did not, I hardly ran into any grumpy people my whole career. So there's no bad guys in Hollywood.
Any thoughts about the guest stars for the show?
Well, I just remember the first season, the first episode with Dan Duryea being the bad guy. And I had seen him in shows. I knew this was a great actor. And he was just impressive to hear him speak. And that voice of his, that look of his, was just, wow, I'm in the room with the gods. And it was nice to be pushed around by him. And it wasn't hard to act scared. So the great thing about working on the show and with all these people and all these pros was, you know, you got to inhabit this imaginary character, but then just being around it was just so real anyway. It didn't take a whole lot of skill to pretend or imagine what situations you're in. And that was, you know, from the props to the costumes to the sets to the actors themselves, who just came alive in those moments to say action and I'm there.
Very good.
Not to slight your question here, I'm so sorry about that, but it was such a thrill to be able to work with people like you mentioned. My God, you know, I grew up going to the movies with the popcorn and everything, watching these people, and then being able to work with them. I'll tell you a real quick story about Charlie Bronson. Now, you all know who Charlie Bronson is? Yeah. Okay. When I got out of the Army in 1955, I first started going to acting school, and my acting coach was Richard Boone. Everybody knows Richard Boone, half-gun will travel, but this is before he ever did half-gun will travel. He had done a little tiny show, which you know, the medical show that he did. Not on for very long. Yeah, Medic. And when I got out of the Army, my buddy Chuck Courtney said, we've got a new acting teacher in town. His name is Richard Boone, and he's great. You've got to go to acting school with us. I was not going to go back into the business as an extra. I was going to try and get a decent job with a career or something. He said, no, you're going to be an actor. You're going to go study with Richard Boone. So I went to class the first night with Richard Boone, Chuck Courtney, and my other buddy Jerry Summers and myself. And the very first night, 2 nights a week, we would go. Well, we met him, and I kind of liked it, and I thought, okay, I'll give it a try. So the second night that we're going in, Chuck, myself, and Jerry, and there's only about 10 or 12 of us, Charlie Bronson comes in. He hadn't done anything. And he sits down, and Dick Boone says to me, Chuck, and Jerry, because he knew the three of us were pals, he says, all right, he said, I want you guys to get rid of your inhibitions. He said, I want you to get up and get under that table right there and be kittens. And go around and really and be kittens. So Chuck and I'm just out of the Army from Korea. And you know, Chuck's a cowboy, and so Jerry, we're going to be kittens. You know, so we got to do it. That's what he wanted us to do. So the three of us get down underneath this table, and we go, meow, meow. And Dick says, stop. He said, I want kittens. I want 3 kittens playing, or get out of class. Chuck and Jerry and I looked at each other and we could be kittens. Well, we became kittens. We're fighting underneath the table. The table's turning over and whatever, and it breaks up, and we look up and Charlie Bronson goes, boom, out the door. Never saw him again.
And on that note, a round of applause for the cast.
I do have one more thing I'd like to say. For a while now, I've been carrying the same shirt I wore on Laramie with me, and every time people walk up that are really fans of the show, they remark, oh my God, I can't believe it, that's the shirt you wore on the show. And it's pretty obvious because I wore it on every damn show. Well, I decided that we should make sure a Laramie fan got that shirt. So Samantha and I decided to raffle that shirt off. And we held that raffle today. And Christy, over here, won that shirt. And here's what she did. When she won that shirt, she immediately tried to give it back to me so that everyone could still enjoy seeing that shirt. So that's Laramie fans. That's real Laramie fans. Now, she has it right now. She's going to bring it to Laramie with her. And we're going to talk about it some more, but I told her that's her shirt. So I just wanted you to know how nice Christy was to offer that, and just to thank all the fans for how you feel about the show. It's really awesome.